37. Psalm 37. This will be a little bit more of a familiar psalm, which is nice, but it is a longer psalm. There's 40 verses in this psalm. So that means that you have lots of material. As far as repeated words, I had close to 37 to 40 different words that are repeated at least twice or more. And one is 13 times. So if you don't find that one, then you're asleep, okay? But there are a lot of them that are just going to be, this is going to be a great study tonight, a lot of great material. And here we have, I know it's kind of trite, and I hope it's not overused, but just kind of put the title on this psalm, Stay Calm and Carry On. Because we can get so wound up about things that we see around us. We see that it looks like Martin Luther said in Mighty Fortress that the wrong seems also strong. And it seems like, what are we going to really do? What can I do against so great an enemy? But what God has really called us to do is to be faithful in the little things, to be faithful and consistent in those things, and just leave the rest to Him. He's going to make all wrongs right. He's going to take care of all those details. And our responsibility is just simply to trust and obey. And the psalm really affirms that very position. That makes all the difference for the believer who may be slightly discouraged by what they see around them. So Psalm 37, looking at the categories, you have prayer and praise, open program. I hope you'll be able to land on this one pretty well. There's a lot in common with Psalm 1. All right, let's read Psalm 37. Fret not thyself because of the evildoers, neither be thou envious against the workers of iniquity. For they shall soon be cut down like the grass and wither as the green herb. Trust in the Lord and do good, so shalt thou dwell in the land, and verily thou shalt be fed. Delight thyself also in the Lord, and He shall give thee the desires of thine heart. Commit thy way unto the Lord, trust also in Him, and He shall bring it to pass. He shall bring forth thy righteousness as the light, and thy judgment as the noonday. Rest in the Lord, and wait patiently for Him. Fret not thyself because of him who prospereth in his way, because of the man who bringeth wicked devices to pass. Cease from anger, and forsake wrath. Fret not thyself in any wise to do evil. For evildoers shall be cut off, but those that wait upon the Lord, they shall inherit the earth. For yet a little while, and the wicked shall not be. Yea, thou shalt diligently consider his place, and it shall not be. But the meek shall inherit the earth, and shall delight themselves in the abundance of peace. The wicked plotteth against the just, and gnasheth upon him with his teeth. The Lord shall laugh at him, for he seeth that his day is coming. The wicked have drawn out the sword, and have bent their bow to cast down the poor and needy, and to slay such as be of upright conversation. Their sword shall enter into their own heart, and their bows shall be broken. A little that a righteous man hath is better than the riches of many wicked. For the arms of the wicked shall be broken, but the Lord upholdeth the righteous. The Lord knoweth the days of the upright, and their inheritance shall be forever. They shall not be ashamed in the evil time, and in the days of famine they shall be satisfied. But the wicked shall perish, and the enemies of the Lord shall be as the fat lambs. They shall consume, to smoke shall they consume away. The wicked borroweth, and payeth not again, but the righteous showeth mercy and giveth. For such as be blessed of him shall inherit the earth, and they that be cursed of him shall be cut off. The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delighteth in his way. Though he fall, he shall not be utterly cast down, for the Lord upholdeth him with his hand. I have been young and now old, yet have I not seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed begging bread. He is ever merciful and lendeth, and his seed is blessed. Depart from evil, and do good, and dwell forevermore. For the Lord loveth judgment, and forsaketh not his saints. They are preserved forever, but the seed of the wicked shall be cut off. The righteous shall inherit the land, and dwell therein forever. The mouth of the righteous speaketh wisdom, and his tongue talketh of judgment. The law of his God is in his heart, none of his steps shall slide. The wicked watcheth the righteous, and seeketh to slay him. The Lord will not leave him in his hand, nor condemn him when he is judged. Wait on the Lord, and keep his way, and he shall exalt thee to inherit the land. When the wicked are cut off, thou shalt see it. I have seen the wicked in great power, and spreading himself like a green bay tree. Yet he passed away, and lo, it was not. Yea, I sought him, but he could not be found. Mark the perfect man, and behold the upright. For the end of that man is peace, but the transgressors shall be destroyed together. The end of the wicked shall be cut off, but the salvation of the righteous is of the Lord. He is their strength in the time of trouble, and the Lord shall help them and deliver them. He shall deliver them from the wicked and save them because they trust in him. Great song. Which category? Pilgrim Program, Pray and Praise. Which one? Pilgrim. Okay, so pilgrim is associated with wisdom. There's a path that you have to choose. Which path are you on? And so this, I put in the category of pilgrim. It is a didactic poem. It's one that's to teach something. It has a lot of proverbial statements. One that's just so great and memorable, specifically, is that the little that the righteous have is greater than the numerous or the mighty weight of the wicked. As you look at the original there, a little that a righteous man hath is better than the riches of many wicked. And what a wonderful proverb there. And a lot of different nuggets that you can take with you throughout your journey in this life, so that you're able to live a life that's going to please God. And so, what we have here, a lot of material. Moving first, different observations from Psalm 37. Yes? Couple plus one. So we have 3 times that fret is used in this passage, and that's crucial. And the idea of fret here, sometimes we get the idea as fret would be I'm hand-wringing in nervousness and anxiety as to how this is going to work out. It's actually more the picture of filled with rage. It's the same idea of what Saul felt toward David. Saul had this fret. It was something that really stirred within his heart that caused him to want to do something that he would regret, and he did regret. The psalmist is encouraging you to not fret. Don't do something you'll regret. What could you possibly do that you would regret? One of the most important things that could possibly happen to those that are watching the ungodly seem to be so successful is to say, what does it matter? Why am I suffering with so little on this side of the equation while the wicked seem to be so prosperous, spreading out like a green bay tree, and that they seem to flourish and they seem to have so much, and yet here I am without all of that. Is it really worth it? That's really the argument that the writers of Hebrews was making in the book of Hebrews. He's telling them to stay with it, stick with this faithfulness to God, and look forward in faith, knowing that God rewards such faith. And so that's the premise here. You may do things you regret. And one of the parts of this psalm, I think it's in verse 8, it talks about that you should not fret to do evil. And so you see the direct contact there with the fact that we could kindle within our hearts such a rage against the injustice in the world that it causes us to contribute to that injustice. And that's not the way we ought to operate. So, some important, obviously, fret being the first word, 3 times mentioned in the psalm, an important word for this psalm. Good? Yes?
I see a lot of others so the trust in the Lord is from Psalm 34.
Yep, Psalm 34 has it. Proverbs 3 has it.
Yeah, Proverbs 3, he's never really good as also Psalm 34. And then inherit the earth, so hard to be out.
Yes.
And inherit is a lot of times.
5.
Okay, 5.
There is inheritance, different word, but yeah.
Okay. So, if we strive to be righteous, then we are part of that.
Yep. And that's a very big inheritance. She mentioned a few other things that are stated in other passages that seem to kind of all find their summation here in Psalm 37. But one of the repeated words that's significant is inherit. 5 times. You look at cut off, 5 times. There, I think, is a strategic parallel. The psalm was not just happenstance put together. This was a didactic poem that was planned out to teach a truth. 5 times inherit, 5 times cut off, specifically. And what you're dealing with is the Jewish mindset. Having a place in the promised land meant I had stake and claim in the promises of God. If I've been cut off, I no longer have access to the promises of God. If I don't have access to the promises of God, I am a miserable person. I do not have any eschatological hope. I have nothing in the future to look forward to. And so to inherit the land was important. But how would you go about inheriting the land? That's the real question here. Are you going to inherit the land the way the wicked do, the way of the ungodly? They seek to inherit the land by worldly terms. They're going to do it by all kinds of their own conveniences and worldly wisdom. But the godly are going to inherit not by their own strength or virtue. It's going to be that the Lord lays the claim for them, and that the Lord will take care of that, and they will be the inheritors. So inheritance, or inheritance appears in verse 9, 11, 22, 29, and 34. And then also cut off is in 9, 22, 28, 34, and 38. So, importance, parallels. I have another one here, and I'll come back to you. Yes.
I don't think of like is how if you pattern ourselves the 50, whatever we do,
Yes.
like it is something trust the Lord, like the Lord, is the Lord, rest the Lord, wait on the Lord, and it's also like you have that number of
Yes.
trust in Him, like Him, make yourself, and then you just have that rest all along that's now a lot of us will wait on the
Yeah.
Lord.
It's very formulaic. And with that formula, it's almost like it's tumbling down through a process where you're able to say, oh, is it that simple? Well, it's easily said, but is it that simple? Well, we have some discussion on that, but it does have that very teacherly feel to it because there are a lot of imperatives. This psalm has a lot of imperatives. She just read off several of those. You have the trust, delight, commit, dwell, rest, cease from anger, forsake that. A lot of imperatives in the psalm, which is the teacher speak, and so that's why this one is a pilgrim-oriented psalm. Good, Jared.
Verse 15, their swords are into their own heart. Reminds me of 2 Samuel 22:35. He trains he teaches my hands to work so that my arms do bend above the brass. That's the wrong word. Just both still and broken by my hands.
Yep, there you go. And so you see that God does crush the weaponry of the enemy, and that the enemy thinks we are well armed, we are invincible, there's nothing that can go against our agenda and plot and plan, but yet the Lord just comes down and with just a simple word, He's able to destroy all of it. And even their own schemes turn back against them, and they're pierced through with their own sword. As I stated, verse 14. Good. Good observation. Yep.
Thinking back on what Mark was talking about earlier, just those trust more delight thyself, but they wait. We see the return of investment over at the end of the verse, trust in the Lord, so shall the Lord appoint you. Delight thyself in the Lord, and He shall give thee the best of thy heart. Commit thy way to the Lord, trust in Him, and He shall bring you to the time. Like we see the return from other investment.
Yeah. Sometimes we feel that where's the immediate gratification in life? I put, Lord, I did my duty this week. I did the good things I'm supposed to do. So, why did this accident happen? Or why did such and such happen? We expect that there's to be immediate gratification. Can there be at times? Does the Lord bless in amazing ways that we do see immediate results? Yeah, there are those times. But in the psalm, it's teaching you to have confidence that whether you see it immediately or not, it's guaranteed. It will not be revoked. And some of the, illustrations of that would be what the psalmist says, I was young, now I'm old, and I've never seen the righteous go hungry or they seek begging bread. What is he talking about? He's talking about because of their inheritance in the land, they have access to the milk and honey of this land. The milk and honey of this land is going to satisfy them. They have those promises of God. Is he literally saying that he's never seen a righteous person never go hungry? I've seen very, very well-meaning, people who serve the Lord who go hungry. But what are they, nourished by when they do not have physical food? They're nourished by the promises of God that they know things are going to happen. I just think of a book that we read in the Word that focuses in on a Chinese believer, fictitious story, but based on truth, in prison and really destitute in all areas of normal life, but yet so satisfied. Why? Where's that coming from? It's coming from these very truths here: trust, rest, commit, and all these others that come from the song. And you mark it down. Those people who are living completely by faith, they are okay because they're living on promises. Good observation. Yeah, Mike.
You kind of already made allusion to this connection, but verses 4 and 5, like myself also the Lord, he shall give thee the desires of thy heart, if thy way to the Lord, some also in him, he shall bring it to pass. Then verses 23 and 24, the steps of good men are ordered by the Lord, he delighteth in his way, and so he follow, he shall not be utterly cast down, the Lord will hold him with his hand. And then down to verse 31, the law of God is in his heart, none of his steps shall slide. Going back to his path, his steps, his way, the allusion is to Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust the Lord with all thy heart, not lean not unto thine understanding, in all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. And I love the Hebrew picture there, and he shall direct thy path. Kind of gives the idea of he's going to take a bulldozer ahead of you, and he's going to make it flat. And I love that. It's not that everything's going to be easy, but he's going to take away a lot of the obstacles to doing what's right if you're committed to him. It's not that there's not going to be opposition. I've seen that firsthand, that sometimes, when you're committed to him, there are people that want to stand against you. But I've also seen the other side of that in the result that eventually, even the wicked look at that and they say, what can we do to stand in the way of what God's doing? And when God goes to bat for you, he takes the bulldozer ahead of you. There's not much you can do, but I think about a running back. I never just follow the blocker.
Yeah, God goes before you, and he prepares that way. But it only comes from this you trust and you commit to that. Good. Who next? Elizabeth? Yeah, it doesn't lose guy. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Like how the rich man had what he appeared to prosper here, but then he had no comfort later, like once he passed. And then while Lazarus was here on earth, God sent him the comfort of the dog because he was, following in God's footsteps, like in this song. It says the proper people and do good, and look for reform. And so he has it makes, there's no reference to Lazarus here, but it made me think of that. But like, in 35, it says that the wicked, are in great power, spreading themselves like a green bay tree. And, I actually was curious about what that was, so I looked it up. It's, like a cherry floral that, propagates quickly and doesn't need a lot of water. And the significance of that would be that the, rich man doesn't have strong roots like the green bay tree, so no reference to backwards there. But, it's on the surface, above the surface, nothing under the ground there.
Yeah, that verse has a lot of interesting, it's very awkwardly written, for us to be able to read into it in the original language and see it translated into the English. But you can see it's a tree that's able to cover ground quickly. And I kind of encapsulate the thought as the wicked seems to spread out and take over like they own the place. Is the idea, because there's a word there for native or local, like that this is something that they grew up into, and so by that, they act like they own the place. It's the takeaway from that verse. And how does someone act like they own the place? Well, they're starting to bark out orders, they're in charge, everything's about them, get this from me, get that from me. Rich man status. And so that rich man status, living like this was his place. Well, what he didn't realize is he wasn't living for the eternal things. And because he wasn't living for the eternal things, he's missing out. And when he lifted up his eyes in hell, being tormented in the flame, he then realized what he was missing. And now he doesn't want anyone else to follow in his footsteps to that demise. So, good parallel. I agree. Good. Other observations? Yep.
Maybe way out there, but I agree on your study. I think when it comes to trying to research
Yeah.
and then it says in verse 9, it actually has a highlight because sometimes I do study. So like the key that happens in money is not too far off and actually kind of got to your topic, you're not trying to and you're not doing the things they've given you and trying to figure out why it's not working out. Not checking it for the box
Right.
and not having to enjoy right for something not supposed to be
Right.
working. You know?
Right. Yeah. There are many different formulas that you'll see in Scripture, and I use the word formula just because we already used it as formulaic in the way that the teaching is coming across. They're not formulas where you x plus y plus z equals this, and so I get that every single time. It is a process that has fallen into disuse, I believe, in contemporary Christianity today, of spiritual discipline. Spiritual discipline is something that you layer upon layer upon layer, you build in. You recognize, oh, this is an area where I've done a little weak. This is an area that I need to shore up in. I need to review, evaluate my life. If we judge ourselves, we shall not be judged by others. But what we will see is that practice of spiritual discipline, like in 2 Peter, or even like where we're at in Psalm 37, leads to a lot of confidence that if you're looking at your own spiritual life and you are fretted, you're in some kind of anxiousness, you're stirred up in some kind of anger and animosity because of what's going on around you, check yourself and realize, oh, there may be a step in my spiritual growth and development that I've been overlooking, and because of that, there's a reason why. There's a strain. If you've ever strained a muscle and you try to, or there's something that's out of joint and you try to calibrate for it, like it's acting normal, but you're pulling on other parts of your body and other muscles are straining for it, you all of a sudden realize, man, I'm in a lot of pain. Why am I in so much pain? Oh, it's because all this is kind of out of whack. If I can't make this adjustment, everything's back where it's supposed to be. And so that's what you're seeing spiritually. And so 2 Peter 1 or Psalm 37 and the other places in Scripture. You see those spiritual disciplines. Good. Great observation. Anything else? Yes, sir. Wayne.
First, 24 to me is a Lord's forgiveness. Especially when we have a word that Lord, you all shall not be cast down. And sometimes we do fall. Really just always bring it comes that we're going to come to this.
Yeah. Yeah, and the idea of a holder with his hand is exactly sustaining. He sustains us with his hand, and so he's able to stabilize us. And what you really see is a great example of how you're able to take a principle, see a passage like this in verses 23 and 24, and see so much spiritual truth. And you can also see that if you connect verse 24 with verse 14, they have the same word. Verse 14, the wicked have drawn out the sword and have bent their bow to cast down, that's the word, the poor and needy, to slay such as we have an upright conversation. We go down to verse 24, though he fall. Well, you're seeing a direct link there in this song. That because of the circumstances, it may be overwhelming, and it may be so overwhelming that the righteous could be cast down. The righteous could be brought down, is the idea. But what does that mean? Is it game over? Sorry, Charlie, you're done? No, it's not it, because the steps in good man are ordered. And when he falls, he will rise again. So you see that principle. He shall not be utterly cast down. He won't be utterly refused, utterly forsaken, for the Lord upholdeth him with his hand. And so there's the hope of God is spoken through those verses. Good observation there. Yes, ma'am.
I think a lot about this, so they're very, and the lead is even though both is done, it's still
Yeah, and that's so that's a key thing throughout Scripture. She was bringing up similarities with Moses, bringing the children of Israel into the promised land. What is the one word ticket that gave the people access to the promised land? One word ticket would have to be faith. Yeah, that's going to determine their obedience. Short obedience is the living out of that faith. It comes down to faith. What's the one word ticket for the people of Ezra's era to return to the promised land? Faith. And that faith is followed up by obedience. So faith is the ticket, and the punch in it is that I've obeyed. I'm following in the footsteps of what God has told us to do. And then you fast forward it to the book of Romans chapter 4. Paul's just torn apart all the ideologies of what makes you the people of God. Doesn't make it, you're not the people of God because of anything righteous you've done. Let's just be frankly honest. All that fallen short of the glory of God, there's nothing to do with God. There's none that seeketh after God. There's no hope for anyone in their own righteousness to have access to God. The only way you're an inheritor of this great righteousness that God is willing to give by grace is because of this ticket, faith. And that ticket is punched through obedience. And what you'll recognize is that that's the earmark of identity with God. And so Psalm 37 here presents that just like everywhere else you see throughout Scripture. You have to have faith that God is in control. And that's what the word wait is really all about. Wait on the Lord. It's just saying, you don't think he's moving yet, but guarantee he is. And just watch. Just watch. He's going to reverse all the wrongs, make things right. And while we're watching the Lord, why don't we also just mark the good man? Mark the righteous man. Because we're going to see what's going to eventually happen to him, the one who waits in him. And so, a lot of these overlapping themes and truths. Good.
Yeah. Because like how many people we started from that, but it is more than just get their minds wildly think that this is have that faith in God and just that kind of must repeat. It goes slow.
And it really is what we just communicated, the truth that gives sticking power for the righteous to continue doing what they do. Because sometimes we want to see want to see that because of something I have done, look at the great accomplishment. This isn't a truth across the board, so don't take it further than just consideration. In the few years I've had in this world, I have often seen the ones who accomplish great things all at once, those projects peter out very quickly, whether during their lifetime or sooner. But I have seen that the consistent, responsible, working in the line that God has given someone to do, that can bear fruit for so many generations. That's not across the board, but that is a general truth that you could mark it down. And so, what Dan Patrick does here in Hollow, Pennsylvania, with at a church, the Unity Baptist Church, an investment of 9 years at this point. Doesn't seem like it's some grand investment. What I put my emphasis on is that sure, there's some great things that have occurred, but what I really pray is that the Lord would take those great things and that the fruit born of that 50 years, 8 years from now, would be that this place is still maintaining and excel in what the Lord has for it to accomplish. Whereas that won't be the case for a lot of other churches. Not that we're better than, not that we're compared. All we are responsible to do is be faithful about what the Lord gives us. If we have been faithful with what God has given us to do, that's going to be here for all that. And so some of those factors come in and it gives you that endurance you need. Because it's so tempting to look around and say, didn't you see what that person did? Wow, look at how many likes or followers they have. And, I don't even post on Facebook, so I don't even know, I don't have any followers. I don't even care, But as far as the world's economy goes, what kind of splash are you making? Is that really what matters? Or is it what matters just in those words? Help me to get my life so that I'm able to pass along a heritage to other generations that will continue. Good. Good observation. Yep. You're good.
So, we have all this temporary restrictions, weapons, and everything. And then it was like, that on 3 times. Recently, because verse 9 you have an inheritance, verse 11 you have an inheritance, verse 18 you have an inheritance, verse 22 to 29 and 34 you have this inheritance. And the Lord has something forever, like forward, and what always with it has for a temporary time.
Yeah.
And also think about the inheritance you will receive from the Lord, and the inheritance that brings up so many families around the world and in this area that ruins families. And our Father, who will give his inheritance, he will give all to them. God has anything over it.
No, I think what the verse she just said really builds on, because why are the righteous able to be so merciful and loving and give so much? Well, because their transactions are based on a credit limit that I can't see the end of the zeros. It's just I can't even put those zeros on paper. That's what the righteous are transacting out of. They're not transacting out of a deficit. That's what the wicked are do. And that's what you see in the same parallel. Let me just read through some thoughts here and we'll bring this to conclusion. There are some hidden things in the psalm. This is an acrostic poem, which means that it's written with first letters of the Hebrew alphabet in succession, 4 lines apiece. There's some that are 3 lines. There's some, Charles sent me an article when he was preparing a few weeks ago about what he came across with this psalm, that's in verses 34, I think it's following, 34, 35, 36. You have the main letter that seems to stand for the wicked is the R and rush in Hebrew. And in those verses, there's 15 words with the letter R in it, and then there's not any letter R after that. And it's almost like it's a hint from the writer that the wicked will disappear. And that really ends at the point when he says the wicked will disappear. Suddenly the rush is gone. And so there's some artistic things that I just want to tell you, it's worth it to learn Hebrew. So if you won't flag for any purpose or value if you learn Hebrew. There's some gems there. But looking at this, we see that we have to calm our frustrations because God is at work and He's doing this great work even when it doesn't seem like it's possible. The first verse gives us one negative action and several positive actions will follow in the subsequent verses. But the evildoer's status in verse 2, they appear to flourish like green grass, but little wither and decay. The first positive action in verse 3 is for the righteous to trust and obey. They will dwell on the land. They will feed on faithfulness. That's such a neat picture there. What are they feeding on? What are you satiated by? What are you nourished by? Oh, God's faithfulness. That's sufficient for me. They're feeding on faithfulness. And what the image there is of sheep being able to feed on that. And you think later on in verse 20, it's in contrast to what the psalm says, that the fat of lambs will be consumed in smoke. And so the image there is that the lambs on the field that are trusting in God, they're going to be fed on His faithfulness. But the lambs on the field that have no trust in God, they're going to disappear just like vaporization. These lambs are just gone. And it's just like the fat turned to smoke and sending into the air, and all of a sudden it's disappeared. Great contrast there as well. Verse 4, the second positive action that stands out is the righteous must find their satisfaction in the Lord. Unique word here for delight. It has the idea of lavish enjoyment. Lavish enjoyment. Just to kind of like roll around and just be so excited about the goodness of the Lord. And so the satisfaction in the Lord, He will give them the desires of their heart. So when you find your satisfaction in the Lord, and you're just taking that cozy blanket and you're wrapping yourself up in it, and you just say, oh boy, I just love all the faithfulness of God, then God's desires will be granted. Why? Because I delight what He delights in. And so those desires, one check written right there. And it's not prosperity gospel. It's a matter of what's God's will, what God's will is, and how we'll be able to see that accomplished in my life. Third positive action, verse 5. The righteous must entrust their way to the Lord. He knows the way of the righteous. By trusting in Him, they can be assured that He will bring things to pass. And so, interesting picture there in verse 5 about rolling our way upon the Lord and just allow it to be in His control. Verse 6, the Lord will reveal the righteousness of the faithful, shining like a beam of light. The vindication cannot be ignored, much like the full strength of the sun at noon cannot be diminished. What I put down. And so what you're dealing with is, you feel righteous people, that you're being obscured, that you're being overshadowed by the reach of the wicked and the darkness that seems to be creeping over the land. But just wait. The moment that the Lord gives the order, your righteousness is going to shoot out like a beam that's going to puncture the darkness. And the moment that darkness is punctured, guarantee it, you're going to see the noonday sun. And it will not be overwhelmed. Interesting how this ties in with the next verse. Joshua in battle, Joshua chapter 10, prayed that the sun would stand still. And that sun would stand still so they might have domination over their enemies. Well, what do we see in the very next verse? We see that we should rest in the Lord. As Joshua prayed for the sun to stand still, as Israel defeated their enemies, the righteous must rest. Same words, stand still, confident that the Lord will right all wrongs. This one positive action explains why the righteous do not need to be angry about the promotion of the ones manufacturing their wicked schemes. The righteous must let go of anger and leave wrath behind. They must not be kindled by evil. Verse 9, the evildoers will be cut off, but those who wait for the Lord to have His way will inherit the earth. So those that wait on the Lord, it's guaranteed. Don't you even fret, worry, or pine away about it. You're going to be an inheritor of the riches in God. So we've got these promises. Well, how long? Verse 10 gives us the how long. Yet a little while. 5 more minutes, and you'll see the realization of all that God is going to bring about. Oh, really? Is it only 5 more minutes? Well, yeah. In light of eternity, it's a little while. Just finished studying for a minute of the Word this morning, 2 Corinthians 5, which obviously following in thought from 2 Corinthians 4, that we endure the death of the Lord Jesus in our body. We take on the persecution and the assailing attack of the wicked. Why? Because I see such an exceeding great reward ahead of me. This exceeding weight of glory that's ahead of me. I can't wait to be robed in this body not made with hands that's extraordinarily glorious. That's what we have to look forward to. So a little while, yeah, it's going to be a little while. When we see Christ, it will be worth it all. And so you have that picture there in verse 10. Those who stood still and waited for the Lord, they are the meek. They will inherit a prominent and permanent place on the earth. Those who find their satisfaction in the Lord will receive the desire of their heart. Here's that word delight again in verse 11. They will receive the desire of their heart, a lavish abundance of peace. Oh, so much peace you can just roll around in it, and you don't have to worry or think about it. Wow, that's what this verse is lacking so tremendously, is peace. And so as I continue on, the verse, the psalm really changes moods. It goes to the wicked. And it says, okay, so let's look at what the wicked are doing. Let's analyze this. It's intimidating. But why is it intimidating? Let's pick it apart. So he goes through, he talks about what the wicked are doing. I'll just give a summary here, because that's all we have time for. The wicked scheme against the just, but the Lord laughs at them, and they will perish. The righteous may appear to have little, but their possession will be eternal, and they will not go without anything in difficult times. The Lord blesses the meek with inheritance on the earth, but curses the ungodly, cutting them off from the possession. And so, obviously, some tremendous truths that are hidden in these verses, not hidden as in hard to see, but just a matter of meditating upon them, seeing connections that similar words form, and moving through, you're able to see some wonderful things in this song. Just scan it through here. You put in some of the comments already up there. Button being smashed. Okay. So I will mention verse 21 and 22 because we brought up the righteous being able to lend and show mercy. Verse 21, the wicked transact with deficit and they cannot repay. But the righteous who appear to be without property possession show mercy and give all they have. Verse 22, the Lord blesses and those who stand still will inherit with inheritance on the earth. Blessed with inheritance on the earth. But the Lord curses the ungodly and will cut them off with possession. All right, so last few remaining statements here in the psalm, looking at that man's steps are established by the Lord, and what is that connected with? It's connected with the law of God hidden in his heart. Because of the law of God hidden in his heart, his steps will not slip. They are established by the Lord, and even though the wicked may believe that they're bringing down the upright, it's impossible because the Lord is sustaining him with his hands. It's a futile effort to try to undo the way of the righteous. The way of the righteous will prosper. The psalmist speaks of the lifelong experience that the righteous have never been neglected, removed from the land of promise. His mercy is infinite as he transacts from a limitless supply, and his heirs are blessed. And on we go. The righteous will inherit the land. The ones who delight the Lord rehearse his wisdom and speak of justice. That's in verse 30. The law of God resides in his heart, so all his steps are established. The wicked stalks, I love verse 32, it has this idea of the wicked stalking the righteous, and he desires. The word there for seeking is the same word for begging bread. It's the same word. So he says, I've never seen the righteous over their seat begging bread. Never craving for sustenance or satisfaction. But guess what? The wicked, they're stalking the righteous, and they are craving to take you out. And they want to eliminate you, eradicate you, and to make it to where that you don't even have any kind of mark left on this earth. But guess what? It's impossible. It's not going to happen. The righteous will appear. So great pictures there. It ends with these last three verses 34 and 40. The righteous just need to wait. Again, it's stated there. Not wait. It's just wait to see what the Lord will do. He will make all things right. He'll keep the way of the upright. They will enjoy the privilege of being inheritors in the land when the wicked are cut off. And so from this verse until 36, I mentioned the resh that's present and that disappears because of the wicked. Verse 35 was that one that I said was a unique verse. It may seem like the violence of the wicked clears his way, like he owns the place. That's how I just summarized what that song, what that metaphor is supposed to picture for us. The wicked disappear without a trace, just like vapor. You go back and try to find it, can't find it, nowhere to be found. The psalmist invites the reader to regard the blameless and watch the upright. Their path inevitably ends with peace. The rebellious are reserved for extermination, and their path ends with destruction. You say, well, that's really harsh. Well, it's really painting the picture of those who defy God and want nothing to do with it. They're going to die. And how ungodly do you have to be to defy God? Do you have to be really sinful, or do you just have to simply live in the divinity of God? Yeah, just live in the divinity of God. And that rebellion means you've already been relegated to destruction, so you just confirm that's where you want to be. The invitation's been there. Follow the way of righteousness, and you'll be blessed. But they chose not to choose that path. So the summary here, the Lord delivers the righteous. He's that fortress. You can see the word fortress there as he is their salvation. The salvation term, I believe, is the one that is the picture of a fortress in our times of distress. Verse 40, the Lord will save the righteous and deliver them from the wicked. They will be saved because they took refuge in him. And so that word, I know that word is not only used often, it's used in Hebrews chapter 2, that Jesus will succor those. What's the idea of succor? Best image that I can give you is infant in the crib, down the hall, next room over, the little cry of that little one. Mom is bounding out of bed, running to the side. She is going to meet the need of the cry. What's wrong? The leg stuck, ours has legs and feet stuck out of it. And so, why is he crying? What's causing the pain? Let's release him from the bondage. And poor Nathaniel, he throws another wrench and touches all sides of the crib. So, I don't know what we would have to teach him how to stay in the bed and something. I don't know. It's going to be crazy. But, when you hear that all of a sudden, you rush to that. Maybe you hear, you're in the middle of the night, you hear the thud of a kid falling out of bed. Oh boy, you get up and you rush to the side. That's exactly what Jesus is saying, or what the passage is saying that Jesus does in Hebrews, God does here for the righteous. And so you say, but why are we seeing any activity? How long, verse 10, Lord? Until, just a little while. Just you wait, and I'll be rushing in. And just hang on a little longer, my friend. And that's a good song that comes to mind as to what we have in the Lord. Psalm 37, great stuff. Great stuff. Worth your investment of meditation. Because it is one of those songs that gives you sticking power to the goodness of God. Let's pray. Dear Lord, thank you so much for the truths that we've been able to enjoy tonight. I pray that you help us to persevere in the face of such opposition. We know that at the end of the day, the story ends with a W, a big W, that stands in as you have won. Because already we fight not for victory. We fight as already being the conquerors. And so, Lord, we are able to have that advantage. We pray that you would help us to live with that mindset and that we would be able to see that is greater, to see that is less, and he that is in the world, and go from this place with that indomitable spirit, knowing that you will accomplish your will through us as we are yielded and obeying you. I pray that your law would be true in us, so that our feet will not sin. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Thank you all. We have setup to do. We got to remove organ, some fire risers, chairs,